I had a multiracial friend once, and it was a different experience for me because usually by the time you get to have one of those friends, you've already built up all these stereotypes about how a person should be, depending on the color of their skin. You don't necessarily judge them on their own merits and the way they behave around you. You've kind of just straddled them into like, yep, that's prototypical behavior of X sort of ethnicity. I say I had a friend, which is probably prelude, most likely, that we're not in contact currently. We just, like, slipped out of, phase. And I want to say he was a good friend, but then again, watching this in retrospect, he might be like, this guy's not that very good of a friend if he's willing to discuss this in public. So I'll tell you the name of the fella. His name was Carl, right? And my friend Carl was a huge motherfucker. Alright, and I'm not just saying, like, he was built like an NFL lineman. Like, he was tall, too. Like, I consider myself tall, and by the standards that we had set in my school, the precedent left behind was that I was about fairly, tall. But there were, like, some behemoths there. Like, they were gargantuan in comparison. They were, like, 6'5", 6'3". Carl was around the 6'4" region. He just slipped in between what we thought was really tall, abnormally tall, and, Carl. He was dark skinned, and by dark skin, he looked like a black iPhone. That's really his skin color. Black iPhone was the color of his skin, and I'm not judging him on that. But the first time I met him, and he said, ¿Cómo estás? I was just like, something is not right in this system that I live in. Alright, you have transported me to the Wizard of Oz right now. We are on a yellow brick road that I have not explored. But continue, sir. Continue asking me questions. And then we just have this little mini conversation. He talks to me in Spanish, and like you kind of want to ask, well, how do you know Spanish? Because I speak Spanish, and I look like I speak Spanish, and we're working off like our old stereotypes. So it's just like, fuck. I want to ask if there's any Spanish in you. And he's like, listen, Mario, you should have just asked right away. Very open to talking about this. He's like, my parents are African. They are African, of African descent. I'm like, okay. Still doesn't explain anything to me. That's like telling me, Tim Tebow is a popular thing right now. I understand that. I can see that. I just don't see how it pertains to this. Go on. He's like, but I was raised in Venezuela. I was born in Venezuela. So, my parents are of African descent, and I am Venezuelan. And I'm like, holy fucking shit. Alright? When you see, like, caramel-skinned people, you think Brazilians, because that's as dark as usually people get. Or, like, you don't necessarily attribute that, like, wow, you're going to meet such an individual that is just going to shake up your notions of what the fuck you grew up believing. Like, this is the gingerbread man incarnate. This is going against all the stratifications, really, that you've just learned. And in one, ¿Cómo estás? And I'm from Venezuela, gone. So we continue to have friends. Now, we weren't the best of people. We weren't the most politically correct of people at the time. And he probably should have mentioned the fact that his parents were African. Because we just abused that power. We just, instead of saying they made love, we just attributed it everything to, like, they threw spears at each other in the bedroom, and, like, they wore tribal masks. It's like, this is how ignorant we were before. This is what we thought. It's like, yeah, that's how you were conceived. You were conceived at the battle of the water hole. Just a regular watering hole, and boom! It just happened. You were conceived middle of the river. Well, I don't see how there would be a river in Africa. So in retrospect, we were wrong. We were wrong all around. We were wrong in our analogies. We were wrong in our assumptions of him. But that's the beautiful thing about it all. It's like, it takes that for you to, like, understand that it's a really big fucking world. it's not as small as you think. There's not black, white, brown, and yellow. Skin pigmentation doesn't mean shit at the end of the day. That's like gonna like, I mean, it's really at best. It may hurt you in the sun or protect you from the sun. Aside from that, it doesn't do a fucking thing to who you are. Really. Because this guy looked like he could have like literally been a bodybuilder at some point of his life if he wanted to. And could have broken every single bone inside of me. But he was the sweetest person ever. Alright? He was like the equivalent of a grizzly bear who would hug you. Who would wear that little like hat in the circus and ride the little bicycle for you. Alright? And you can't fucking say shit about that. You just have to accept that you will never be as sweet and cuddly as that. And you must leave it at that.